Draper forced attack in those waves. He asked for a big speed build. That was an instruction to the crew not to oversheet so the boat could accelerate away smoothly.
2. He's over the lane. Yeah? You ready? Okay, let's go there. And weights up.
And just as he said, Draper tacks back, staying to the middle of the racetrack. 3/4 of the way up the first beat. It's going to get much more crowded.
Gonna have to duck here. Just gonna keep it high for a second. Okay, going bow down now. That boat's peeling off some of those for us, which is nice. Maybe. Yeah, you ready?
They may feel their execution of the start could have been better, but they were at the favoured end of the line. They then had a plan and they followed it.
You ready to go? Okay, let's go there.
And now, as they approach the top mark, they're fighting inside the top 10.
Wind it up.
Just approaching the mark on port now, looking for that gap, which is often there. And the nice thing about coming in on port there is that you don't end up in that horrible windward mark stuffathon. And I think they've found a little gap and they're going to get away with it.
Okay, let's go there.
Here they go, tacking onto starboard now.
Let's go bad hand. These boats are going to end up miles over this.
Yeah, lots of boats have overstood the mark and they're way above the starboard tack ley line, something that Draper was predicting halfway up the beat. Draper's team approaches the top mark. Behind them, well, they're pouring round, and there's nearly 50 boats out here, but the leader is approaching the spreader mark, bottom of your screen, and prepares to head downwind against the tide.
Done well here out going low, guys. Got to think about this tide, yeah? It's actually pretty influential, isn't it? Gonna have to clear our lane a bit here, yeah? Just a little bit, yeah. Stees are off here, chap. Okay. Gonna roll that boat. Okay, yeah. Go big on time on the tack line. Ease the sheets. Especially the windward sheet, it's in the cleat. Trim on the sheet. Okay guys, go for it, go for it.
New game now, heading downwind. Top right, that's the head camera, Chris Draper, looking around, working out how to protect his position.
Boat behind, going really high. Okay, taking it down a bit now. Right, well we've got quite a lot of current on our nose right now. So we're thinking that we want to push into that as much as we can, because there's going to be a lot of sailing to do on starboard, we're thinking here. Because obviously the most of that beat was on port as well. So we're just trying to protect our lane and not let any boats roll us and try and avoid any soaking inside us is our goal. Unfortunately we've got one just in front of us that's going particularly slow, which isn't helping us get ripping.
Very, very starboard biased. Almost all the leg is going to be on starboard. This is quite hard work for Chris and Simon here, because they don't want to get pulled up to windward by the boats from behind, but they've got to keep their wind clear, because jibing off will not be an option with this very one-sided run.
We just raised the jib because the boat was felt a little bit too weather helmy on the upwind, but we still had reasonable pace. There's a lot of sailing left to do on this starboard tack still, so we're continuing on here. I think we're going to keep going this way for a little while. The thing that's in the back of my mind is that tide is going to make people be shyer of the lay than they think they're going to be, because it's going to take them up on port. So it might be an option to push a little bit further and do the one jibe and come in with a better lay. So we're going to have a look and see how early people start jibing, I think.
Understood. So it sounds like what you're hoping is that most of these people are going to jibe off early and you're going to try and two-tack this run.
That's correct, yeah.
This shot here really does give an indication of how one-sided this run is. I mean, these guys have been sailing on starboard for a long time now, and they're nowhere near the ley line. As far as the boats that have jibed off earlier are concerned, it looks like the wind's quite likely to drop, and they're going to have an awful lot of sailing against the tide in very little wind. It'll be very interesting to see what happens at the leeward mark. Most of the boats around have jibed onto port as Chris predicted, and it looks like he's continuing with his plan of coming all the way to this ley line. That means he'll have a really nice clear run into the mark.
Well, Draper and his crew have elected not to jibe. They're continuing. They're top left of picture, but the vast majority of the fleet have already come across. And now, on board with Draper and Hiscox, the boom goes across, and they too join the rest of the fleet heading in on port jibe. Well, they left that jibe pretty late, and we're about to find out if they got it right. Well, they're sliding in now with better angle and with it better speed, but most significantly they have gained a lot. They're rounding the mark now, and only 2 boats around ahead of them. Another textbook leg for Draper and Hiscox.
Simon and Chris have just gone around the mark in 3rd place, and McLaren, who were right with them, just a little bit ahead, and they only jibed off maybe 100 yards earlier, are just behind them. So they made a big gain on a boat that was only really just very close to them positionally. All the guys that jibed off early have really lost out.
Well, up this second beat, Draper and Hiscox are sticking to the middle. McLaren, they went way left, and it appears to have paid.
So still quite shifty here. We're about 3/4 of the way out the beat, and as you can see, the boats that are doing the best are actually the ones that are staying fairly near the middle of the course, but just keeping in phase with the oscillations. When the wind goes left, it looks like the guys right on the left are good. When the wind goes right, the guys on the right look good. And actually, the ones that are best overall are the ones that just keep sailing on the lifted tack all the time. That's just exactly what Chris and Simon are trying to do. They look like they're right in the middle of the fleet, and just every time they get a little header, they tack and cross a few boats around them.
Well, there are Draper and Hiscox still in the middle of the racetrack. We've seen boats go far left, far right. They've taken flyers, and some of them, well, they've certainly had their moments. But Chris Draper is sailing for consistency, and that's usually the way to put together a championship-winning performance. Well, the leaders are rounding the top mark for the final time. The leader has rounded the spreader mark for the final time and is heading down towards the finish. But the racing is, as always, very close in this Laser SP3. And here is the second place